Okay, right. Welcome everybody to our next lesson. So this is lesson 8 now. So we've got 2 more lessons in this series about birds after this one. So we're for those of you who are still doing the oil pastels, please carry on working on those, and I'll give you help as we progress through that, because it was quite a long piece to do, particularly if you were working on lots of detail and things like that as well. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is using acrylics, but doing kind of a more simplified design, as in with less texture and more flat color and layers of acrylic as well. But the most important thing about that is that we're going to create our own composition. So this is the stage of the course now where we start to create our own ideas and designs and things, and put those together to make a painting, which is what we've done for the last few courses. Okay, so we'll go over to the to the to the wall and have a look there. Okay, I'll just pin myself. There we go. Right, so this is an artist which some of you may know. This is an artist called Carry Ackroyd, and she's from Northamptonshire. I met her last year, or the year before. She had a big exhibition at Peterborough at the art gallery there, and I got to listen to her talk about her work, and then afterwards I bought her book. Or my wife bought the book for me, and I managed to get it signed. So I had a lovely chat with her and everything as well. But I thought this was a really nice sort of way to think about how we can use colour, how we can use composition to create an interesting painting with around 2 birds. So you'll remember from my email that I suggested finding 2 images of birds that you could use within the same composition. So I've put this painting from Carry Ackroyd on the screen here, and it's 2 dunnocks arranged artfully in the composition. And one of the things I've started to do as well is create my own just over here. Now, Carry Ackroyd uses screen printing, which is also known as serigraphs as well. So she creates a series of masks and runs the ink through a screen to create different layers of color, which are then printed over and around each other to create these compositions. I don't do any screen printing myself, but I used to at university, so I've got a little bit of an understanding of how that works. But what we're going to do anyways, because we can't do screen printing on here anyway at the moment, but we can use acrylics to create a composition like this with flat areas of interesting color. So the idea is you're going to take a picture of a bird and simplify it, and then start to paint flat colors in and add a second bird in, and then foliage as well. So I'll just remove the dunnock for a second. I have got another one here as well, which is also beautiful. So I've got a composition with lots of different, I think these are long-tailed tits arranged in the picture there. So I just thought I'd bring that one up as well. So let me just get rid of these 2. So this is my version, if you like, painting and or drawing that I'm going to use. So you'll see here I've got this picture of a jay. I'll just bring up my jay. He's just over there, look. So what I'm trying to do with this is keep it a lot more simple than the stuff we've done recently. So I'm not thinking so much about the shading, but thinking about the actual shapes that I can see within this bird. So I'll bring the bird to the front so we can have a closer look at him there. So there is quite a lot of detail. There is some shading on the feathers. I'm going to avoid focusing too heavily on the shading and just focus on flat areas of colour, as we've just seen with Carry Ackroyd's work. So simplifying things down. So I've got the J in there, and I've also, you'll just about see at the bottom, I put a blue tit just there. So let me bring up my blue tit up to the front. There's the blue tit just there. And in order to create a composition, I've used a little bit of a guide to help me do that. So you can see that the overall composition is a square shape, and I've divided this square into thirds and used the thirds to help me decide where to put different things. So for example, I decided I wanted these two birds on it, and the jay was going to be the biggest of the two, which it would be in nature anyway, I suppose. But we've got on the right hand side, as we look at it, you can see a line going down through both of the eyes of both of the birds, and then the top third line goes again, crosses over the jay's eye in the center there. So using the rule of thirds helps you to create balance in your picture, and it's a common thing that photographers use when they take photographs as well. So you'll often see, if you look at your camera phone, there's a setting on there where you can use the rule of thirds, and basically that's there to help you balance your photograph. So we're using it in a painting here. Now if you look at the bottom of the image where the blue tit is, you can see, if I just bring that in, how those two third lines cross over the eye of the blue tit again, and he's going in the opposite direction to the jay, so it kind of creates a little bit more balance there as well. Now after that, the idea I'm trying to sort of use here is the same as with the Dunnock picture. So if I bring the Dunnock out again, the Dunnock has, or the Dunnocks has leaves and foliage almost pretty much filling the frame, and then that colour, that greeny colour, helps the birds themselves stand out, because you've got this very warm orangey brown that is used there. So I'm trying to go for a little bit of that with my picture, and I've drawn in some foliage on there to fill out that frame. Some of the foliage I've completely made up, but some of it also comes from another picture that I was looking at of a blue tit, where he was where the bird was on a branch with some blossom. So you can see there's a little bit of blossom just over here in this corner, and then I've put some leaves that I've seen on another picture all around the image. So this is often how I will work when creating my own collage work, using text and things like that. And then just above the wings of the jay, I've put in these little circles, which is just another feature to add a little bit more interest. So what I'll be doing with this is painting flat areas of colour in this design in order to build up the composition. So I'm going to, the jay has these blues and browns on it, and the blue tit obviously these yellows and blues. So I'm going to choose a very limited color palette in the background to make these two birds stand out, and I've not exactly decided what that's going to be at the moment because I'm painting the jay. All right, so now one thing I will do is show you a very quick and easy way to find the thirds on any shape that you're drawing. So I'm going to use a square as an example, without actually measuring. And I found this bit, I thought to myself today, usually I measure everything, but there's got to be a way of doing this without doing any measuring at all. So I'm going to show you that now over here. All right, so there's my painting. So you can see I've started to paint him, and I'm not necessarily using the exact colors that I can see on the bird. So the black areas on the bird here I've done in blue, so I've used a nice deep indigo, and I'm adding a little bit of black paint back over the top to darken it slightly down. But the idea is I'm going to simplify the bird as much as I can. Now on with that rule of thirds idea that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. So I just need to sharpen my pencil So I found this video how to do it, and it was really nice because it was a young boy of about sort of 10, I guess, something like that, who demonstrated how to do it on a computer. So first of all, then, if we start with a shape such as a square like this. So I've got a square. Okay, now I want to work out where the thirds are on this picture. So first of all, a light line from corner to corner like that. Add another light line from corner to corner. Helps give you the center of your box. Then a horizontal line across the center like that. So you've got this kind of star shape. Now this is the good bit. Okay, so from this point here, a halfway point on the box, to the top corner, draw another line like that. And you see it's starting to get a bit more complicated looking anyway, but that's it. Now we've found the third. Okay, so the third is where the last line crosses over with the first line you drew. So it's just here. So if I draw a vertical line down like that, I've got my first third. And if I go the other way, I've got a third again. So I've already worked out where my thirds are going to go. And I can do that on the whole of the picture. All right, but I'm just going to sketch these in now because I kind of know where it is. So there we are. Now, the thirds are brilliant because what you can do is create balance, as I said, in your picture. So where the thirds cross over, so these points here, is where you might want to put something of interest in your picture. So with the one that I've drawn over here and then started to paint, the vertical and the horizontal lines cross over at about the point where the eye is, and the same for the bottom two lines here, look, where the eye is on the blue tip. Now the other thing that I did is I've also got the line of the body of the J going across that line just there, and the wings and the back of the blue tip go across that line there. So for some reason these measurements, the thirds, help you to place things within a picture to create balance, and it works very well in a sort of shape like a square like this. So again, you put something interesting in some of these areas and it starts to come together. All right, now one little point I noticed this morning is that people got hold of their photographs and they kind of felt like they had to draw these birds the same size as the pictures and into the picture frame. You can, as you can see, my J here, I've drawn it a lot bigger because I decided that this was going to be the main part or dominant part of the image. And then the blue tip I've drawn almost the same size as the one on the photograph and put it together in the picture to create balance. The other nice thing about this is there's a nice diagonal going from corner to corner with the wings on this J, so it creates a little bit of a dynamic feel, maybe a sense of movement in the picture as well, not just from the shape of his wings and everything, but also the position of them. All right, so there's a little bit of an idea about how to create a composition. So you know, when you get to this, if you're still working on oil pastel, that's fine, but when you get to this, 2 photographs of birds that you think will go together would be great. You'll find there's also some other birds which are great, like a heron, for example, is a nice bird because it's they sort of contort their necks in different positions, or their wings go in different positions like most birds, but they're quite graceful looking and interesting to work with as well. And there are some pictures on the drive if you want to have a look there too. I've also got loads of pictures of ducks because I thought at first I was going to do a duck and then later I decided to do these. All right. So the idea then is to create your own composition, and then we're going to paint it with acrylics. So I've already got some paints out just here that I'm going to use. So try to limit your color palette. So you got perhaps color palette for your birds and then one color palette for the background. So with the blues and oranges just here, I think perhaps some nice greens seems kind of obvious. Some greens in the background will help the bird to stand out, but let's see how we get on today. All right. All right. Yes. So I'm taking inspiration from Carry Ackroyd, as you know, and Carry Ackroyd is a serigraph designer or painter or artist, and this is one of the books that she's published. And I got this last year, as I said a few minutes ago, but a really lovely book, well worth getting for inspiration, particularly with painting and drawing and being inspired as an artist for nature. So anyway, so the composition here, as I said a few minutes ago, we have got the eyes of both birds on the thirds, where the thirds cross over. The wings have a diagonal sort of aspect as well, so that creates a sense of energy and movement within the pose of the bird, as well as of course the fact that the wings are spread and it's flying and everything. So just here I'm painting back over the indigo with a little bit of black, just to darken down that indigo a little bit more and make it a bit darker and stand out and so forth. And then in a few minutes what I start to do is work into the rest of the wings and so forth. So part of the exercise here is about exploring colour as well. So we've got quite a bit of contrast on this J here with these lovely blues in the wings and the stripes and things, which you'll see me add in a few minutes, and then the orange in there as well. So with the dark of the wings or the darker areas and the oranges and blues, we get quite a bit of contrast in the colours, as in the oranges and the blues being opposite on the colour wheel, so we get that all standing out really nicely in there. I probably added a little bit more detail to the bird than I originally intended to, but I think that worked quite well as we progress through the painting anyway. So here we're adding some little highlights or the stripy bits in the wings, and this is just literally a dash across those lines you've just seen me add over the top there to create that texture and pattern on the feathers. So we're darkening down and layering colour on top, with the acrylics being on a white surface. You get the white coming through the paints, especially when you've added a little bit of water and so forth, so it's worth just layering back over the top some more colour to give it a little bit more of richness if that's what you're looking for. So on this little bit here, one of my students has published a book and I just bought it as well. It's the first book she's published. Anyway, we're going over to add some shadows onto those spread feathers just over there. And I put down this kind of grey here that I've added a little bit of brown to, and then I mix a slightly darker one in a few minutes and work back over the top. Here I've added a touch of white to the browns, and I'm looking a bit closer at some of the details in the face and on the back and on the upper parts of the wings, but here you can see I've added some nice shadows and things onto those feathers, and then I decided to get a bit more definition in those by adding a little bit of a darker tone or darker lines and tones into those feathers as well, and remembering of course that I'm trying to keep things reasonably simple in this image as well, to get across this idea that Carry Ackroyd has used in her work. So as I said before, the leaves and things I've kind of added in myself. I've used them more as a motif throughout the background and the surrounding areas of the picture. So they become quite decorative in a way, but they certainly set the scene in the image. Now here I'm using a sap green, starting off at the bottom quite dark, and as I'm progressing I quite like the idea of getting lighter as we go up to the top end of the picture. So I'm adding a little bit of white and a bit of primary blue to this sap green, and we gradually move up to the top. So making the background darker at the bottom and lighter towards the top actually gives me more options with painting the leaves in a little way as well, because what I can do is where the paint gets the background colour, the green gets lighter, I can add darker leaves, and at the bottom I can add lighter leaves. So it gives me a few more options with adding colour and richness to the painting, and also perhaps even a sense of light in the background there as well. So the light being above and the shadows being below, underneath that branch that we've got there on the left hand side. There we go, and then I come back in, I think, as well. Oh, this was me just talking a bit, because most of the students at this stage are still doing their oil pastel work, which is superb. It takes quite a while. The nice thing about the oil pastels was some people found it rather difficult at first, but kind of got addicted to it after a while as well. Anyway, so I continue to, I'm not being too precious about getting every single brush stroke the same, because I'm blending those colours in as I progress through the background there. So some areas end up being a bit darker, some areas are a little bit lighter, but the nice thing about your acrylics is you can keep buzzing back over the top, or working back over the top, and lightening and darkening and changing different things as you work, which is really good fun actually. You get much more interesting variation of the hue and the tone of the colour. So the little circles there you can see me painting around, those are another motif or addition that I've added. I quite like these little circles because they're kind of random, and for me they make it feel a bit more natural, I suppose, as well. So you can see here we've got the lighter background at the top there, and then I've started to add in this bluey green colour onto the top area. So you've got the contrast between the light leaves, sorry, the dark leaves and the lighter sort of turquoise background in there. And then I've started to introduce more yellows as we move down towards the bottom. Now, one of the things I like about the serigraphs that Carry Ackroyd sometimes does is she layers the different leaf shapes on top of each other in kind of a transparent way, which helps them to look like lots of leaves overlapping, and gives the picture a lot more interest and depth. So I shall be adding some of those ideas as we progress, but at the moment I'm just painting in some of the leaves. You can see how some are darker and some are lighter according to where they are in the composition. So this is a design element that you can use to help the picture work. On Bogdani's work that we looked at before, you could see how the highlights and things and shadows were added into the picture to create contrast and make certain areas of the image stand out more than others. So here you can see I've added extra leaves over the top of the ones that I'd already drawn, so we're getting this sense of layering of the foliage and things as well. So I'll be carrying on with this painting next week as well, and doing the painting the blue tip and things. So that we're nearly at the end now. I'm just adding some more of those circles to give it kind of a magical feel. But I'll see you next week for the next installment. Thank you. Bye bye.